She was the most innocent and infatuated girl in the small town. Because of a simple verbal promise from her lover, she spent her entire life waiting under a maple tree. But with the passing of spring and autumn, the changing of seasons, the man never returned. Thousands of years passed, and she had long passed away, her soul becoming a ghost, missing her only chance to be reborn. One day, a silver fairy came to admire the maple forest. Strangely, while all the other maple trees had withered, one tree stood out with bright red leaves. The girl felt certain that something was buried beneath the tree. However, when she dug, she didn't find anything but unexpectedly woke the girl who had been asleep there. She had been waiting for someone very important, but that person still hadn't come. She wanted to light a smoke signal for him to see. But now, in the 21st century, no one used such a method of communication anymore. The silver fairy thought it was just a typical spirit and didn't want to get involved. But looking at the girl's pitiful state and hearing how she had been waiting for countless springs, summers, autumns, and winters, the fairy was moved. The fairy agreed to help fulfill her wish. The girl's first reaction was to have her lover come to her, but then she realized she couldn't even remember his face. All she could do was take out an old photo from back then and ask them to help find him. To search for clues, the silver fairy went to find the great Tengu, the all-knowing being of the mountain, who knew everything about the surrounding area. However, information wasn't free. The Tengu demanded 3 photos of cute boys as payment. Since the silver fairy could change forms at will, she reluctantly agreed to his demand. After receiving the photos, the Tengu happily shared the truth. The man they were looking for had actually died on the battlefield a long time ago and had never returned. The girl's childhood friend had never known the truth, waiting under the maple tree her whole life. After her death, she became a bound spirit, never seeing him again. The silver fairy hadn't expected the girl's story to be so tragic, but it was hard to tell her the whole truth. Yet, upon hearing the news, the girl broke down. She had always had a premonition, but didn't want to accept it. She said she could never forget the man, and what she most wanted to know now was his current situation. She begged the silver fairy to fulfill this last wish. Uncle Raccoon, afraid of seeing the girl cry, finally decided to connect to the Yellow Springs hotline and bring the man's soul back for one last meeting. They began searching the Yellow Springs system, but after a long search, there was no information about the man. It was clear that he had already reincarnated and was no longer waiting for her. That was the worst news. But the silver fairy also had some good news. She no longer had to wait, because the last time the man reincarnated, he didn't choose to be human. Instead, he chose to become a maple tree, standing beside her, never leaving. The red leaves were silent for a long time. She looked up at the still bright red maple tree and seemed to finally understand that her thousands of years of waiting had not been in vain.